GitHub inside the functionality episode, you can get the source code and all the files you need to launch the application you're going to create. So go ahead and click this button. You can download the zip file or you can clone it by copy the URL and head over to your desktop and create a new folder. I'm going to name it my repo. Then right click it and git bash here. And type git clone. Then paste the URL we copied and press enter. So it's going to pull everything into this folder. So go ahead and open this folder on VS Code. Then type npm install and press enter. This is going to install all the packages you need to launch the application. If it's done installing, then type npm start to launch the application. And we have successfully launched your app. Back to VS Code. So I'm only going to copy the index.css file inside our repository folder. So let's go ahead and do that. First, open the VS Code on the folder that we have been working with from the previous video. And then head over to the source folder and delete the index.css file. Then back to the repository source folder and copy index.css and paste it inside the source folder to replace the index.css file we deleted. Then close the repository folder and back again to the app we created inside of this folder that we have been working with from the previous video, and continue to take this app to the next level. So open up the terminal and type npm start to launch your application one more time. If you see the menu bar icon squeezed to the left, it means you have successfully copied index.css file we need for building this next part of our app. This is because we are going to add another component inside our home or parent component. Back to VS Code and open the home component and create a constant and name it categories. And set that equal to new set. Then braces, and inside I'm going to map the data into product and then return product.category. So this is going to give us a set of categories we have inside the list of objects from the data file. So let's console that to the browser and see what we have. Save the changes back to our browser, open up the dev tool, and here inside the console we have a new set of categories. Back to VS Code again, create a constant and name it all categories, and set that equal to square bracket, and inside of it I'm going to write a string of categories and put a comma next to it. Then use the split operator and write categories variable we created. So it's going to give us another list of categories with this string of categories included. So let's console that to see what we have. Save the changes back to our browser, and now we have a new list of strings with categories string included. Back to VS Code, then head over to our child components folder and create another child component and name it categories. And inside of it, I'm going to import React, then create a constant variable to represent the name of the component, and then return a paragraph which says this is categories component. Then export the component. Go back to home component and import categories component here at the top, and grab all categories as well as toggle. We're going to pass those two inside our categories component as attributes. I'm going to write some comment. So go ahead and write the categories component here. Then pass the toggle value and then all categories. Also, I want you to go down below our menu bar icon and change the translate into a negative to 125. Save the changes and go back to categories component and receive toggle as well as all categories as props, and then replace the p tag with the select element and give it a class name. So I'm going to use ternary operator to check the value of toggle. If it's true, then return toggle drop down, or return drop down if it is false. Then inside of this tag, I'm going to write curly braces and then map all categories into category and an index, and then return an option tag and give it a key, index, and a value of category. And finally, I'm going to write a dynamic value of category inside of it. Save the changes back to our browser, and we see the drop-down menu rendered browser. We have successfully rendered the home page, but then these buttons and the drop-down are not functionable. So let's go and create the functionality for this brand icons button and the drop-down menu options for our categories. So open up the product context API, and inside of it, I'm going to create another function. I'm going to name it handle category, and it takes category parameter. Then I'm going to console a string plus the parameter we are going to receive when calling this function. Then I'm going to write it down here to our value object. Head over to home component and receive that here inside our product context object. Then I'm going to pass that to our categories component as an attribute, and then I'm going to head over to our categories component and receive handle category as a prop. And inside of select element, I'm going to listen to unchanged event and take event parameter, then fire handle category function, and then pass an argument which is the event object dot target, the value we receive from the option tag down below inside of this select element. Save the changes. Then if we head over to our browser and open up the dev tool and then press drop down and select woman category, you'll see here on the console the string we logged, and then next to it you'll see the category, and it changes every time we select from the drop down menu. Back to VS Code, then go back to the context and delete the console from the handle category function, and then replace that with a constant which says new product, and then set that equals to data, and then filter the data into product and return only the product or an object with the value of category equals to the parameter of category we are receiving from the option we select inside our categories component, and then set the product to the new product's constant variable we created above. Set the changes back to our browser. Now if I select baby, it renders the baby shoes, and if I do woman, it does the same, as well as if I do select main category. Beautiful. Back to VS Code and create a state inside our context API. I'm going to name it select, then give it an initial value of object, and inside of this object we have a shoe property with the value of empty list, and we also have option property with the value of empty string. So back to our handle category function. And when we call this function, I want to select object property of shoes into the new product we filtered, and then set option property to a value of the parameter category we are going to receive when calling this function. And then finally, set the active value into an empty string that's going to set off the active button from the sidebar brand icons buttons. Since we're going to use the select object to change the shoe brand category from the sidebar component, let's console that inside of this handle active function, which is firing from the sidebar component. Save the changes, back to our browser, open up the dev tool and select Nike icon, and here on the console we have an empty object because we haven't selected the category. Then if I select, it set off the active button, and if I select the brand icon again, inside of this select object we have an option property with the value of woman category string. Also, we have a shoe property with a list of woman shoes category. Again, if we select baby category, it set off the active button and place the icon button again, and you'll see we have a new select object with the option property value of baby category string and a shoe property with a list of baby shoes. Back to VS Code, then open up the sidebar component, and instead of just passing index value, let's also pass the brand name property as our two arguments. And receive the brand name here inside the handle active and say if the brand name is equal to all, then set the product into the data and then return. Again, if the brand name return anything else, then create a constant and name it new products. Set that equals to data and filter the data into product, and then return only the product with the brand name equals to the brand parameter we are receiving from the sidebar component, and set products equal to that constant value we created. Then save the changes back to our browser, and we see the shoes rendered with respect to the brand button we are selecting. Beautiful. Now let's go back to the VS Code and make the category selection even more functionable. So back to our context API and delete everything inside of handle active function except set active to index. Then start over again by destructure the select object property into a shoe and option instead of writing selected option or shoes. Then say if the brand name is equal to all, and if the option is equal to an empty string, or that option is equal to categories, then return the following by set the products into the data and then return. Else, if the option is equal to an empty string, or that option is equal to categories, then return constant variable which says new product, and set that equal to the data and filter the data into product, then return only product object with the value of name equals to the brand name. Then set the product into new product, then return. Else, if the option is not equal to the category and the brand is equal to all, then return by set the product into the shoes property and then return. If anything else happens, then create a constant new product and set that equals to the shoes and filter the shoes into the product, then return only the product with the name equals to the brand name. Then set the product into the new product and then return. Save the changes back to our browser, refresh the page. Now, if I select the brand button rendered the shoes in respect to the brand button we selected. And if I go to the drop-down menu and select the category, it rendered the shoes with respect to the option we selected. Now, if I select the baby option and place brand icon button, it rendered the shoes or the product with respect to both the brand and the option. Beautiful.